Nico's ship glided through the violet clouds above Zephyra, a planet famous for its floating crystal mountains. From the cockpit, he could see the glowing spires of minerals that shimmered in the soft light of the twin suns. Zephyra had a reputation among human traders for holding some of the rarest crystals in the galaxy. He had traveled many light years to reach this world, driven by the hope of trading enough crystals to support his small colony. Landing was always the hardest part on Zephyra. The planet's surface was unstable, and the magnetic storms could make any ship spin uncontrollably. Nico guided his vessel to a narrow plateau near a cluster of tall, jagged crystals. The landing gear touched the surface with a soft hum. Outside, the air shimmered slightly from the energy radiating off the crystals, making everything around him glow in rainbow colors. Nico stepped out of the ship and took a deep breath. The air was crisp and slightly sweet, carrying a faint hum of energy. He had prepared for months for this trip, studying maps and local weather patterns, but nothing could have prepared him for the sight of the floating mountains. The crystals drifted in the sky like islands in the clouds, some connected by thin bridges of rock, others hovering completely free. He reached for his scanner and aimed it at the nearest cluster. The readings confirmed what he had hoped: pure, unclaimed crystals. They were rare, and the energy readings suggested they had powerful applications for technology back home. Nico's heart raced with excitement as he pulled out his extraction tools. The first crystal came loose with a satisfying click. Its surface was smooth and glowing softly. Nico marveled at its beauty. He carefully placed it in his container and looked up to plan his next move. Then he saw her, at first. It looked like a trick of the light. A shadow moved across the plateau, gliding with a grace that did not belong to any human. Then she stepped into view. Mira's scales caught the light of the suns, reflecting gold, green, and purple. Her eyes were bright and intelligent, and her presence alone seemed to command the space around her. Nico froze. He had heard rumors of Zephyra's native dragon-like humanoids, but he had never seen one. Stories described them as fierce and untrusting, yet also wise and elegant. Mira's gaze fell on the crystal in Nico's container. With a swift motion that seemed almost effortless, she reached forward. Before Nico could react, the crystal vanished from his hands and hovered in front of her. She studied it for a moment, and disappeared with a burst of speed and a trail of shimmering light. Nico stumbled back, stunned. His heart pounded not just from fear, but from wonder. He had never seen anything like her. He had expected danger, but the way she moved was more like a dance than an attack. He felt a mix of frustration and fascination. Determined not to lose the crystal, Nico followed. The floating mountains were tricky to navigate. Some were connected by thin rock bridges that wobbled under his weight. Others required careful jumps or climbs, using his specialized boots. The wind currents shifted unpredictably, and he had to focus constantly to avoid being swept off the edge. As he moved, Nico noticed subtle signs of Mira's path. A faint glow on a crystal, a soft hum that indicated energy manipulation. He realized that she was not just strong. She could control the energy of the crystals in ways he did not yet understand. Every step he took was a lesson in humility. He had thought humans were clever, but Mira showed him that there were beings in the galaxy far beyond human understanding. Hours passed. Nico tracked her through the floating spires, but Mira seemed to vanish whenever he approached too closely. It was as if she wanted him to learn something about patience or respect. He felt a strange mix of irritation and admiration. Each time he caught sight of her, she was observing him with calm eyes, almost as if she were testing him. By late afternoon, Nico reached a plateau, surrounded by the largest crystals he had ever seen. Mira stood at the center, the crystal he had tried to take hovering gently above her hand. She looked at him, and this time she spoke. "Why do you take what you do not understand?" Her voice was melodic and firm, carrying clearly across the plateau. Nico swallowed nervously. He was used to talking to machines and humans, not beings like her. I want to trade them," he said honestly. "We need them for our colony. They can power machines, heal wounds, and store energy." "I did not mean any harm." Mira tilted her head, her eyes glinting. "Humans often think they can take what they want. You have courage, but courage alone is not enough here. Do you understand what these crystals do? I think I do, Nico said, feeling the truth of his words waver. He realized that he had focused more on desire than understanding. I know they are valuable. I know they store energy. But I don't know their limits or how they affect Zephyr itself. Mira stepped closer, the crystal still floating between them. Her scales shimmered like a living rainbow in the fading sunlight. Then perhaps you will learn. Nico felt a thrill of fear and excitement. He had come to Zephora seeking treasure, but now he realized that the real challenge was understanding and respect. He nodded, committing himself to whatever trials might come. Suddenly, a strong wind swept across the plateau, carrying tiny fragments of crystal in the air. Mira leaped gracefully to a nearby spire, spinning in the air with perfect balance. Nico tried to follow, but his human body struggled with the unnatural angles and shifting platforms. Mira landed perfectly and looked down at him. You must move with the planet, not against it, she said. The crystals are not objects. They are alive with energy. Treat them as you would a friend, not a tool. Nico took a deep breath and adjusted his approach. He tried to feel the currents of the air and the subtle vibrations in the floating rocks. Slowly, carefully, he began to move more fluidly. It was exhausting, but exhilarating. Every step brought him closer to understanding the rhythm of Zedhora. By evening, Nico reached a narrow bridge of crystal connecting to massive spires. Mira was already there, sitting gracefully, the crystal resting gently in her lap. She did not make a move to run or attack. She simply watched him, as if assessing his efforts. You are learning, she said finally. Most humans fail here. They see only the surface and ignore the world around them. I want to understand, Nico said sincerely, not just take. Mira nodded slowly. Then perhaps you are different. As the suns dipped below the horizon, the floating mountains glowed with a soft golden light. Nico realized that he had come seeking treasure, but had found something more. Mira, the dragon lady who had taken his crystal, had also captured his attention in a way he could not ignore. He felt a strange mix of admiration, curiosity, and a spark of something deeper. That night, he set up camp on the plateau. He did not try to sleep immediately. Instead, he watched the stars emerge above the floating spires and thought about the lessons he had already learned. Humans were clever, adaptable, and curious, but he realized that alone, these traits were not enough. To survive on, to understand, he would need patience, respect, and a willingness to see beyond his own desires. Myra remained nearby, a silent presence, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. Nico could not tell if she was judging him or merely observing. Either way, he felt a sense of partnership forming, fragile but undeniable. As he drifted into sleep, he knew one thing for certain. This journey was no longer just about crystals or trade. It was about discovery, about challenge, and about someone who had entered his life like a force of nature. Mira had taken more than his treasure. She had taken his attention, his curiosity, and perhaps in ways he did not yet understand, his heart. Nico woke with the soft hum of Zephyra's energy filling the air. The floating mountains glowed faintly in the early light of the twin suns. He stretched, careful not to disturb his small camp, and looked toward the plateau where Mira had disappeared the night before. She was nowhere in sight, but the crystal she had taken from him seemed to leave a faint trail of energy in the air. Almost like a glowing thread, determined, Nico packed his supplies and set off. Moving across the floating spires was more difficult than he had imagined. Some of the paths were narrow, barely wide enough for his boots. Others shifted slightly with the planet's energy, making every step a test of balance. He adjusted his gear and focused, remembering Mira's words, "Move with the planet, not against it." Hours passed and Nico's muscles ached, but he could not stop. He saw signs of Mira's path, faint glimmers on crystal surfaces, small disturbances in the floating rocks, and soft hums in the air. Each sign confirmed that she was always just ahead, testing him in subtle ways. The more he followed, the more he realized that Zephora itself seemed alive, responding to Mira's presence and perhaps even to his own. Finally, Nico reached a narrow bridge that stretched between two massive spires. Below him, the clouds swirled with violet and gold light, and he could see floating predators circling in the distance. He remembered hearing stories of Zephyr's creatures, small but dangerous predators that could leap from spire to spire. Moving too fast or carelessly could bring disaster. He took a deep breath and stepped onto the bridge. The surface wavered slightly, and he felt his balance tested. Slowly, he inched forward, adjusting with every step. Suddenly, a gust of wind pushed against him. He stumbled but caught himself with a hand on the crystal surface. His heart raced. Zephora was teaching him patience and awareness, just as Mira had. As he reached the other side, he finally saw her. Mira stood at the edge of a large spire, the crystal hovering gently before her. She did not run. She simply watched, her golden eyes calm yet intense. Nico felt both relief and awe. He had been chasing her for hours, facing dangers he had never imagined. And yet she appeared serene, almost untouchable. "You have followed well," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the distance. "Most humans give up long before reaching this point." "I want to understand," Nico said, trying to steady his voice. "Not just the crystals, but this world. And you." Myra's eyes narrowed slightly, as if measuring the truth of his words. Then she stepped aside, leaving a path for him. "Then you will follow the trials," she said. "The planet tests all who come here. If you can survive, you may learn. If you fail, you will understand nothing." Nico nodded. He knew that this was more than a chase. It was a test, a challenge that would measure his courage, patience, and ingenuity. The first trial came quickly. A section of floating spires began to vibrate violently, a natural phenomenon on Zephra that sometimes caused the rocks to collide or shift unexpectedly. Nico had to leap from one spire to another, calculating distances carefully. He almost missed the second jump, but managed to grab a small ledge. His arms ached, and sweat dripped down his face, but he did not give up. Mira watched silently, and he felt a quiet approval in her gaze. Next, a crystal storm began. Tiny shards of energy-filled crystals swirled in the air, creating a dazzling but dangerous display. Nico had to dodge and weave, using his tools to shield himself. The storm tested not only his reflexes, but his ability to stay calm under pressure. Every time a shard passed close to him, he felt the sting of Zephyr's energy, a warning from the planet itself. Hours turned into the afternoon, and Nico's determination did not waver. He noticed something extraordinary as he moved carefully and respected the planet's energy. The crystals seemed to guide him. A small shard would glow brighter, or a path would shift slightly to make a jump possible. It was as if Zephra itself recognized his effort and was giving him small hints. Finally, reached a massive spire at the edge of a floating chain. Mira was there, standing tall with the crystal floating before her. This time she did not speak immediately. She tilted her head, studying him as he approached. Nico felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. He had followed her through danger, learned to move with Zephra, and survived trials that would have broken most humans. "You have courage," Mira said at last. "But courage alone is not enough. You must understand the flow of energy, the life within these crystals, and the balance of this world. Only then will you truly see what you seek." Nico nodded. He felt the truth of her words. He had come to Zephora seeking treasure, but now he realized that the real lesson was understanding and respect. He knelt, placing his hand near the crystal without touching it, feeling the gentle hum of energy through the air. Mira's eyes softened slightly. "You are beginning to see," she said. "Most who come here see only value. You are learning to see life. That is rare among your kind." The twin suns began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the floating mountains. Nico felt exhausted but exhilarated. Every step, every trial had taught him something about Zephora and about himself. He realized that this journey was no longer just about crystals or trade. It was about growth, challenge, and connection. Mira moved closer, the crystal hovering lightly between them. "Do you wish to continue?" she asked. "The next trial is not easy. It will test your mind as much as your body. Many fail, even after surviving the physical dangers. I want to continue, Nico said firmly. I want to learn everything I can. Not just about the crystals, but about this world and about you. Mira's lips curved into a faint smile. Then prepare yourself. The next trial will begin at dawn. Rest now, human. You will need all your strength and focus. Nico set up a small camp near the edge of the spire. He worked quickly, securing himself against sudden shifts in the floating rocks. As he ate a small meal and sipped water, he reflected on the day. He had faced danger, learned patience, and begun to understand a world far beyond his own experience. And through it all, Mira had been there, a guide, a challenge, and a mystery. As night fell, the floating mountains glowed faintly with energy, and Zephyra seemed to hum around him. Nico lay back and looked at the stars, feeling a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. He realized that the true treasure of Zephora was not in the crystals he had sought, but in the lessons he was learning. The challenges he was facing, and the bond he was beginning to form with Mira, he did not yet know what the next day would bring, but he felt ready. Zephora had tested him. Mira had challenged him, and he had survived. The path ahead would be difficult, but Nico understood that growth often came through struggle. He closed his eyes, letting the gentle hum of the planet lull him into sleep, ready to face the next trial and discover more about the dragon lady who had stolen his treasure and captured his curiosity. Nico awoke to the soft golden glow of Zephyra's twin suns. The floating spires shimmered like jewels in the early light. His muscles ached from the previous day's trials, but his mind buzzed with curiosity. He had survived Zephyra's dangers and had followed Mira across treacherous paths, but he still did not fully understand the purpose of the crystals or the dragon lady herself. As he packed his gear, he noticed Myra standing a few meters away, the crystal from before floating gently above her hand. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she observed him with those sharp golden eyes, as if weighing his thoughts and intentions. "Good morning, human," she said finally. "Are you ready for the next lesson?" Nico nodded. "I want to understand. I want to know why the crystals are so important and why you protect them." Myra's gaze softened slightly. "Then you will see the truth of Zephora, and you will learn that not everything humans seek is meant to be owned. These crystals are more than objects. They are the veins of this planet, channels of energy that maintain balance across Zephora. Take too much or disturb them carelessly, and the consequences can be severe." Nico listened carefully. He realized that his initial goal of mining and trading crystals had been narrow and selfish. He had focused on value and profit, not on understanding. The lessons Zephora offered were much greater than treasure. They were about respect, balance, and knowledge. "Why me?" Nico asked. "Why show me this instead of driving me away?" Mira tilted her head. "Most humans act without thought. You have courage, yes, but you have also shown patience and curiosity. You have survived the physical trials, and now you are ready for understanding. Humans who can learn to respect Zephora are rare, and perhaps you are one of them." Nico felt a mix of pride and humility. He realized that surviving the trials was only the beginning. The real challenge was to think, to learn, and to grow. Myra gestured toward a glowing crystal embedded in the plateau. "Come closer. Feel it, but do not touch." Nico stepped forward carefully. He could sense the hum of energy vibrating through the crystal, a gentle pulse that seemed almost alive. He focused, trying to sense its flow and rhythm. Mira watched him, guiding without words. "This crystal is part of a network," she explained. The veins of energy spread through Zephora, connecting every spire, every floating island, every living being. When a crystal is removed or damaged, the balance is disturbed. Plants weaken, creatures become restless, and storms grow more violent. Nico thought of the crystals he had taken yesterday. He had wanted only to trade them for his colony, but now he understood that his actions could have harmed Zephora itself. He felt a wave of guilt, but also a deeper appreciation for Mira's guidance. "How do you control them?" Nico asked. Myra smiled faintly. "I do not control them. I work with them. I listen to the energy and guide it, but I never force it. Zephora does not respond to strength or violence. It responds to respect and understanding.
Nice.
Nico realized that this was the lesson Mira had been teaching all along. Her strength, her speed, and her agility were impressive. But what made her truly powerful was her wisdom and her ability to work with the world, rather than against it. As they moved together across the plateau, Mira showed Nico more of Zephyra's wonders. Crystals that glowed in patterns like stars, floating plants that sang softly in harmony with the energy, and creatures that seemed to glide through the air as if swimming in invisible currents. Nico was amazed. He had traveled many light years and seen many worlds. But Zephora was unlike anything he had ever encountered. You humans often see only what you want to take, Myra said gently. You forget that life and energy are connected. You must learn to see the web, the relationships, the balance. Only then can you truly understand the value of what you encounter. Nico listened intently, absorbing every word. He felt his perspective shifting. The crystals were no longer treasures to be traded. They were living parts of a world that demanded care and attention. And Mira, who had seemed at first like a thief, was not only a guardian but also a teacher, guiding him to see beyond his own desires. The day passed with lessons that challenged both body and mind. Mira led Nico through paths where the floating rocks moved unpredictably, teaching him to sense patterns in the energy. She presented puzzles in the form of crystal arrangements, each requiring thought, observation, and patience. Sometimes Nico failed, misjudging a jump or misunderstanding a crystal's pattern. Each failure was met, not with anger, but with gentle correction and explanation. By evening, they reached a high spire overlooking a valley of glowing crystals. Mira sat down and the crystal floated to her side. She looked at Nico, her expression serious. "There is one more thing you must understand," she said. "Zephora is not just a planet. It is a living system. The crystals, the spires, the winds, the creatures, they all depend on each other. Humans often fail to see these connections. They see only gain. You have survived the trials of the body, but now you face the trial of understanding. Will you respect this world, even if there is no reward? Will you protect it, even if it is difficult?" Nico thought carefully. The answer was clear. He had come for crystals, but now he understood that Zephyra's true value was in its life and balance. He felt a strong sense of responsibility and determination. "I will," he said firmly. "I will respect Zephora and learn from it. I will protect it as best I can." Mira's eyes softened, and for the first time, she smiled openly. "Then you are ready for the next stage. You will not just survive here. You will become part of this world, in understanding and in action." The night settled over Zephora, and the floating mountains glowed softly in the light of the twin moons. Nico camped near Mira, feeling a sense of connection he had never known. He realized that his journey was no longer about treasure or trade. It was about learning, growing, and forming bonds across worlds. As he drifted to sleep, Nico felt a spark of admiration and curiosity toward Mira. She was not just a guide. She was a symbol of what humans could aspire to when they combined courage, intelligence, and respect. The Dragon Lady had stolen his crystal. Yes. But she had also awakened something deeper within him, a desire to understand, to protect, and perhaps to belong. When dawn came, Nico was ready to continue. Mira led him to a narrow bridge connecting two massive floating islands. Below, the valley shimmered with the light of countless crystals, and the air hummed with energy. "Today," Mira said, "you will face a challenge that requires both understanding and action. The crystals here are delicate, and their energy is powerful. One wrong step can cause imbalance. You must move carefully, think quickly, and work with the flow of the planet." Nico nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a thrill of excitement. He had come to Zephora seeking adventure, but now he sought understanding. Every movement, every decision mattered. He felt alive in a way he had never felt before, as they crossed the bridge together. Nico realized that the lessons Mira was teaching him were not just about Zephora. They were about life, about balance, and about relationships. He had started the journey thinking of crystals and trade, but now he thought of respect, wisdom, connection. The day passed with careful navigation, observation, and problem-solving. Nico moved in rhythm with the energy of the floating islands, sensing patterns and responding to shifts in the crystals. Mira guided him when necessary, but allowed him to make decisions and learn from mistakes. The process was exhausting, but exhilarating. By evening, they reached a high spire, overlooking the central crystal valley. Nico looked out at the glowing landscape, feeling awe and gratitude. He realized that Mira had not just taught him about Zephora, she had taught him about patience, respect, and the importance of seeing beyond immediate desires. Mira turned to him, the crystal floating gently beside her. "You have learned much, human," she said. "But there is still more to understand. The journey is not over. The crystals, the planet, and even I have lessons yet to offer. Will you continue?" Nico smiled, a mixture of determination and admiration shining in his eyes. "I will continue. I want to learn everything I can," Mira nodded. "Then rest now. Tomorrow, you will face challenges that will test your mind as much as your body. But I believe you are ready." As Nico lay down to rest, he felt a sense of peace and anticipation. The journey he had begun for crystals had transformed into something far greater. He had faced danger, learned patience, and begun to understand a world and a being beyond his imagination. And through it all, Mira had been there, guiding, challenging, and inspiring him. For the first time, Nico realized that his adventure was not just about treasure or survival. It was about discovery, growth, and the bond forming between him and the dragon lady who had captured not only his crystal, but his curiosity and admiration. The twin suns of Zephora rose slowly over the floating mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. Nico stretched and looked around, noticing the delicate balance of the floating spires. The energy of the crystals pulsed gently, a reminder of the planet's living presence. He had learned much from Mira: patience, observation, and the delicate ways the crystals connected life across the planet. Today, however, a new challenge awaited, one neither he nor Mira had faced before. As they moved toward the central crystal valley, Mira suddenly paused. Her golden eyes scanned the sky. "We are not alone," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Other beings have sensed the energy of Zephora. They do not come to learn. They come to take." Nico's heart tightened. "Aliens?" he asked. "Yes," Mira replied. "A rival faction seeks to harvest the crystals without understanding their power. If they succeed, Zephora could be destroyed, and the balance lost forever." Nico felt a surge of determination. He had come to Zephora seeking adventure and treasure, but now he realized that his purpose had shifted. Protecting the planet and the life it supported was more important than any crystal or reward. Mira led Nico to a high spire overlooking a narrow valley. Below, he could see movement ships approaching, small but fast, glinting in the sunlight. The alien faction had arrived, and they were organized and armed. Nico felt a mix of fear and excitement. He had never faced an enemy like this, but he also knew humans were clever and adaptable, capable of solutions others might overlook. "They will try to take the crystals quickly," Mira said. "We must act before they reach the valley." "Can you think and act under pressure, human?" "I can," Nico replied. "I will do whatever it takes." Mira nodded and handed him a small device. "This will help you sense energy flows through the crystals. Use it wisely. Zephora will respond to careful actions, not brute force." Together, they descended carefully toward the valley, moving along floating spires and narrow bridges. Nico felt a thrill as he navigated the terrain with newfound skill, guided by Mira's instructions. The alien ships had not yet detected them, giving them a small advantage. The first confrontation came suddenly. A group of aliens landed near a cluster of valuable crystals. They moved quickly, their tools designed to extract energy without care or respect. Nico watched them closely, analyzing their movements. Then, he noticed a pattern in the crystal energy around them. By carefully adjusting his device and positioning small energy redirects, he was able to confuse the alien sensors. Their tools malfunctioned, and the crystal's energy remained undisturbed. Mira observed silently from above, impressed. "Clever," she said. "Humans are resourceful. Use your mind as much as your strength." Encouraged, Nico continued to anticipate the aliens' movements. He set up small traps using the natural energy flows of Zephyra. Crystals glowed, redirected energy currents, and created barriers that slowed the intruders. Each action required careful thought and precise timing, testing both his patience and his ingenuity. The aliens, realizing something was amiss, began to advance more aggressively. They activated small energy blasters, firing at the floating spires. Mira leaped gracefully between rocks, deflecting attacks and using her agility to protect both Nico and the crystals. She moved with speed and precision, but it was Nico's human creativity that gave them the advantage. At one point, Nico noticed a particularly valuable cluster of crystals under direct threat. He quickly calculated the energy flow and used his device to amplify a small current. The crystals pulsed, creating a temporary shield of light that deflected the aliens' tools. Myra looked at him, eyes wide with admiration. "You are learning fast," she said. "You understand the energy in a way most cannot. Keep this focus. The planet itself is your ally." Hours passed as they defended the valley. Nico moved with increasing confidence, using the floating spires and energy currents to outsmart the intruders. Mira continued to fight with grace, but it was the combination of human ingenuity and her strength that made them an unstoppable team. At one point, an alien ship landed dangerously close. Mira leaped forward, engaging them directly, while Nico manipulated energy currents to disable their tools. Together, they created a perfect balance of offense and defense. The aliens, frustrated and unable to extract a single crystal, began to retreat. As the last of the intruders fled, Nico and Mira stood together, watching them disappear into the distance. The valley was safe, and the crystals remained intact. Nico felt a surge of pride not for defeating the aliens, but for protecting a world he had come to respect deeply. Mira looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting both relief and admiration. "You have proven yourself human," she said. "Not by strength alone, but by wisdom, patience, and courage. You have shown that humans can rise to challenges and protect life beyond their own interests." Nico smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "We did it together," he said. "Your guidance and my quick thinking. Zephyra is safe, for now. And that is the lesson. Strength alone does not save worlds. Respect, understanding, and cleverness can achieve what force cannot. You are learning the way of balance." As the suns began to set, the floating mountains glowed softly, bathing the valley in golden light. Nico and Mira moved to a high spire, overlooking the scene. The energy of the crystals hummed gently, reminder of the planet's resilience and the harmony they had preserved. "I never thought I would fight to protect a planet," Nico admitted. "I came for crystals, for treasure, but now I see the real value is in life and balance. And, in learning from you..." Mira's eyes softened, and she smiled faintly. "You have grown human. You have learned to see beyond desire, beyond immediate gain. That is rare, even among your kind. You have not just survived Zephyra, you have become part of it." Nico felt a warmth spread through him, a combination of pride, relief, and admiration for the dragon lady who had taught him so much. He realized that their bond had grown stronger through shared challenges, through danger, and through trust. The night settled over Zephyra, and the floating spires glowed under the light of the twin moons. Nico and Myra camped on a high plateau, close but not touching, sharing silence and reflection. Nico thought about the day, about the aliens, and about the lessons he had learned. Humans could be clever, resourceful, and brave, but he had also learned humility, patience, and respect for life beyond himself. Mira watched him quietly, recognizing the change in him. He had started the journey seeking crystals, but now he had proven himself worthy of trust, understanding, and partnership. The dragon lady who had stolen his treasure had also inspired him to rise to challenges he had never imagined. As Nico drifted to sleep, He felt a quiet satisfaction. The battle was over, but the journey continued. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new discoveries, and perhaps deeper understanding between him and Mira. He realized that Zephora had given him, or than adventure it, had given him purpose. Growth in a bond that crossed species and worlds. He smiled faintly, thinking of Mira, the dragon lady who had challenged him, guided him, and inspired him. She had not only taught him about the crystals and the planet, but also about himself, what humans could achieve when courage, wisdom, and respect worked together. Nico knew that the real treasure of Zephora was not in the glowing crystals he had sought at the start. It was in the lessons learned, the balance preserved, and the bond forming between a human and a dragon lady in a world where courage and intelligence were as valuable as any gem. And as the twin moons rose, casting a silver glow over the floating mountains, Nico understood that the true challenge was not just to survive Zephora or protect its crystals, but to grow, to learn, and to be worthy of the trust and guidance of someone extraordinary. The twin suns of Zephora rose gently over the floating mountains, painting the crystal spires in shades of gold and violet. Nico awoke with a sense of purpose. The trials, lessons, and dangers of the past days had shaped him. He had grown stronger, wiser, and more patient. He understood the delicate balance of Zephora. He had learned to work with the energy of the crystals rather than merely seeking to own them. Today, he felt ready for whatever awaited him. Myra stood nearby, the crystal floating lightly above her hand. She looked calm, yet alert, as if she could sense the flow of energy in the planet itself. Her golden eyes met Nico's, and for a moment, the air between them was quiet and full of unspoken understanding. Today, Mira said softly, you will see the fruits of your learning. Zephora is not just a planet to protect. It is a living system, and now you are part of it. But one final challenge awaits. Are you ready? Nico nodded. I am ready. Whatever it is, I will face it with you. They moved toward the central crystal valley. The energy there pulsed brighter than ever, a radiant hum that filled the air and made the floating mountains glow. Nico had never seen anything so magnificent. The valley seemed alive, each crystal connected by invisible threads of energy. Forming a network that sustained the entire planet, Mira gestured to the largest crystal at the center. This crystal holds the balance of Zephora. It connects every living being and every floating spire. If it is disturbed, the entire planet suffers. Today you must understand how to protect it completely using your mind, your courage, and your respect for life. As they approached, the ground trembled slightly. Nico tensed. This was no ordinary test. The planet itself seemed to demand vigilance and intelligence. Suddenly, a ripple of energy moved across the valley. The alien faction that Nico and Mira had fought before had returned. They were larger in number and more determined. Their ships hovered near the valley, and small extraction tools glimmered in the sunlight. They were ready to take the central crystal, unaware of its true power. Mira's scales shimmered as she leapt gracefully into action, deflecting incoming attacks and moving with unmatched speed. Nico took a deep breath, steadying his mind. He was no longer merely chasing or reacting. He understood the energy of Zephora and how to work with it. Using the device Mira had given him, he sensed the flow of energy through the valley and the crystals. He planned his moves carefully, redirecting energy currents to confuse the intruders and block their tools. The aliens tried to adapt, but Nico's human ingenuity, combined with Mira's agility, proved overwhelming. He created subtle shifts in the crystal energy that formed protective barriers, while Mira used her strength to keep the intruders away. Each action required precision, timing, and understanding. The valley itself seemed to respond to their efforts, reinforcing their defenses and amplifying their movements. Hours passed in a tense balance of strategy and action. Nico found himself exhilarated, fully alive in the moment. He realized that humans could achieve great things not just through strength, but through creativity, intelligence, and respect for the world around them. Every move he made was calculated, every decision deliberate, and every success a confirmation that he had learned well from Mira's guidance. Finally, The last of the alien ships retreated. The valley fell silent except for the gentle hum of the crystals and the soft wind over the floating spires. Nico and Mira stood together, breathing heavily, but victorious. Zephora was safe, and the balance of its energy remained intact. Myra looked at him with pride. "You have done well, human. Not by force, but by understanding. You have protected Zephora and honored its life. That is the mark of someone worthy of trust and friendship." Nico smiled, feeling a deep warmth. "We did it together. Your guidance, my thinking, and the planet's energy. I couldn't have done it alone." Myra's eyes softened. "It is rare to see humans work with the world rather than against it. You have shown that humans can rise to the challenge, respecting life and using their intelligence wisely. That is what makes your kind remarkable when you choose to act with understanding." As the suns began to set, the valley glowed in golden light. Nico looked around at the floating mountains, the shimmering crystals, and the creatures moving gracefully among them. He felt awe and gratitude. Zephora was more than a planet. It was a living, breathing world, and he had become part of its story. Mira moved closer, the crystal floating gently beside her. "You have proven yourself in mind, body, and spirit. But there is something more. Trust, courage, and respect create bonds, even across different worlds. You and I have shared these trials, and our connection is rare and valuable." Nico felt a spark of emotion he had not expected. He had come seeking treasure, adventure, and knowledge, but he had found something deeper. He had found admiration, trust, and perhaps even the beginning of a bond that went beyond understanding. Mira had challenged him, guided him, and inspired him in ways he could never have anticipated. "I feel the same," Nico said softly. "I respect you, and I have learned so much from you. And I think I care for you too." Myra's golden eyes glimmered. "Then let this bond guide us as we protect Zephora. Together, humans and dragon-like beings can achieve what neither could alone. We can learn from each other, grow, and create a future where understanding and respect lead the way." Nico nodded. He felt a sense of peace and purpose. Zephora had given him more than adventure or treasure. It had given him lessons, growth, and a bond that transcended worlds. He realized that the true value of his journey was not in the crystals he had sought at first, but in the life he had helped protect, the challenges he had overcome, and the connection he had formed with Mira. The night fell over Zephora, and the floating mountains glowed softly under the twin moons. Nico and Mira sat together on a high spire, watching the valley below. The energy of the crystals pulsed gently, a reminder of life, balance, and harmony. Nico felt a quiet joy. He had not only survived Zephyr's trials, he had grown through them. "Humans are capable of greatness," Mira said quietly. "When they combine courage with wisdom and action with respect, they can achieve remarkable things. You have shown this, Nico, and I am proud." Nico smiled. "I have learned from the best," he replied. "You have taught me patience, respect, and how to see beyond myself. You have shown me that the real treasure is not crystals or wealth, but understanding, growth, and connection." Mira tilted her head and smiled faintly. "Perhaps human, the greatest lesson is that courage and heart are as valuable as any crystal. You have proven yourself in both." Well, as the night deepened, Nico realized that his journey on Zephora was more than an adventure. It was a transformation. He had come seeking treasure, faced danger, learned from a dragon lady, and discovered what humans were capable of when they acted with intelligence, courage, and respect. And in the process, he had formed a bond that would remain with him, a connection that transcended species and worlds. The floating mountains shimmered in the soft light, the crystals humming gently and the wind whispering over the valley. Nico and Myra sat side by side, sharing silence and understanding. Knowing that together they had achieved something rare and precious, Nico looked at Myra and smiled. "Thank you for everything," he said sincerely. "For guiding me, challenging me, and showing me a world beyond imagination." Myra's eyes glimmered warmly. "And thank you, Nico, for listening, learning, and respecting Zephora. You have shown what humans can achieve when they choose to understand rather than take. Our bond is the result of courage, wisdom, and trust, as the twin moons rose high above Zephyra. The valley and floating mountains bathed in silver light. Nico realized that the Dragon Lady had not only taken his crystal, but also something far more valuable, his admiration, respect, and perhaps his heart. And he understood that the journey had just begun. Together, they would continue to protect Zephyra, learn from each other, and explore the possibilities of a bond that spanned worlds and species. For Nico, the true treasure of Zephyra was not the crystals he had sought at the beginning. It was the knowledge, growth, and connection he had gained, and the Dragon Lady who had changed his life forever. And as he watched Mira's golden eyes reflect the silver light of the moons, he knew that adventure, respect, and understanding could create bonds stronger than any treasure in the galaxy.